Hello, and thank you for stopping in. Today we are here to talk about a legendary manga, man. A legendary manga in the cyberpunk and steampunk field. And it's one that I missed growing up and that I'm kind of going back to because I'm trying to get my brain wrapped around the classics. And that is Battle Angel Alita, or Gunm for my folks over in the East, man. And just a brief bit of history on how we got Battle Angel Alita, right, instead of Gunm. Basically localization stuff, right? During the time when this originally came over, manga didn't really have as big of a presence in the West. So they thought, if people see this on the shelves, they're going to skip past it. It's too strange of a name. So we got the sexiness that is Battle Angel Alita, man. And I think that it's a pretty solid name. So this manga goes into some really cool themes and a lot more philosophy than I was expecting. You know, I didn't really know what I was coming into with Battle Angel Alita. I didn't know if it was going to be like a typical like shonen type thing, if it was going to be more than that. But there's a lot of really interesting philosophy in this, and not even just the typical sci-fi stuff of like a robot wondering, am I human? Like, that's a cliche that has been done to absolute death, right? Battle Angel Alita has a lot more going on under the surface, so let's just touch base on the plot really quick, give you guys a brief summary of what's going on in this story, and then we'll talk about some of the themes that I really think makes Alita stand out from a lot of its competitors. So Alita tells the story of a professor, right? Professor Ito, who for reasons unknown to us is in a scrapyard, and he's like attempting to put together this project, right? He found the scraps of a young girl whose brain was preserved in the scrapyard, right? And he decides that he's going to take her back to his lab, and he's going to work on putting her back together to be the most beautiful girl possible and to give her like the best possible life that he can possibly provide her. And so he goes from scrapyard to scrapyard looking to see what he can do, and as time goes on, he manages to piece together a body for whom he calls Alita. And for our localization, right, they say the name of Alita was the name of his cat that just that he had just lost. But besides the point, Alita gets her body. Things are going great, right? He has his girl, like he's extremely happy to kind of be in like that fatherly role again. But the world they live in is pretty dystopian, right? It's a pretty bleak future where basically everyone's pretty much just fighting for survival. There's no guarantees where your next meal is going to come from. Violence is a pretty well everyday occurrence, and so in order to make a living, Ito is also a bounty hunter, right? And this is something that he tries to hide from Alita, but Alita starts to wonder why he's always like sneaking out at night and everything, and because there's these rumors of an individual who's like a serial killer, so she's starting to piece stuff together. Ito always goes out at night. He has like these marks and bruises on him, and so she follows him one day because she's like, oh man, I hope that he isn't a serial killer I'm hearing about. And so she sees Ito out with his massive gigantic anime hammer about to take out some unwitting cyborg, and she tells him to stop. She's like, no, don't do it. I don't want you to do this to put together my body. Because for Alita, she believes that this is how Ito's making the money to piece her together and everything. And then before they know it, they get ambushed, right? Something comes out from the side and tries to take out Alita, tries to kill her. Unbeknownst to Alita, Ito is not a murderer, right? He's not, well, not in that sense that she was thinking. He's a murderer, but he's a bounty hunter, right? He collects cash from those who have bounties on him, turns it into like the local bar, and then collects cash for it, right? He gets money. This is how he ekes out his living. So in a moment of desperation, when things are about to like look really bad and they think they're going to be taken out, something awakens in Alita's mind, right? Because this is another piece of the story. Alita cannot remember. She has memories that are locked away, right? She's suffering from amnesia. She doesn't know who she really is, and so during this moment of desperation, Alita does like this crazy like flip kick and like takes out the monster in like one blow. And the Ito, right, the professor, he looks at her like, what the hell was that? He's like, that's Panzerkunst, right? He said, that's a Panzerkunst move. And apparently that's some sick futuristic martial arts that only badasses know. And he starts to really realize that, man, there's a lot about Alita that I am not aware of. And so begins the tale of us learning more about Alita's fighting instincts, a clue into who she might actually be. And then it also begins Alita's journey of self-discovery and her realizing that her future is really complex, right? Because on the one hand, she does seek, or she does want, some sort of normalcy, but at the same time, she has these abilities and these things about her that are far from the capabilities of others, and she wonders who and what she is and what she wants to do with her own life. And to jump in a little bit, right, some of the themes that this book hits on are just really great. There's I would say one of the most significant themes that arises throughout Battle Angel Alita is that of humanity. It's about what it means to be a human and the responsibilities that come with that, both the strengths and the weaknesses. The very setting that they live in is one that destroys the humanity of those that inhabit it, right? And we're talking about humanity on multiple levels, which is what I really like about this manga, is that there's layers, right? On one hand, we're speaking about humanity in the sense of like a literal sense, where you live in a world inhabited by cyborgs, robots, and regular humans. So there's the blurring of the lines in the physical sense of what it means to be human, but also the rampant violence that is in this world that they live in, that is in this dystopia, which also takes away our more subtle meaning of humanity, right? The more subtle meaning of humanity that we have in the sense of like empathy, caring for others, and not doing monstrous acts against one another that we wouldn't want committed to ourselves, right? And this is one of the biggest surprises for me with this manga. Holy crap, was I not expecting the level of violence in this thing, man. Like, I'm so used to just like, because like, of course, everything I read has like some level of violence and conflict, right? Like, that's something that helps make a dramatic and entertaining story. But there are moments in this thing where I was like, literally out loud said, holy shit. Like, it surprised me. It was giving me Violence Jack vibes, or like some of those early 90s, late 90s OVAs where stuff was just like brains popping out, like eyeballs getting messed up. It was giving Berserk, you know, and I'm not mad at it. I love that type of thing, but it super caught me off guard. But I don't believe that it's just played for shock value. I think the violence that is present in this manga very much is used to outline or to bolster the strength of the theme of humanity, right? Where you see all these violent and just absolutely heinous acts that some of these individuals commit against one another, and it makes you question, like, are these people really even human anymore? Like, sure, they may have a human body, but in order to do this to somebody else, or in order to be willing to do this to someone else, there's a very large element of your humanity that just cannot be there anymore. Like, you've lost things that make a person, like that empathy, that sincerity. In order to do some of the things that individuals do to each other in this manga, humanity is very much in question. And to further expound upon this theme of humanity in the first volume, right, because this is what I've gotten through so far. In the first volume, the main antagonist is this individual called Mukaku, and he is a fantastic villain. I hated his guts when he was introduced to the story. I'm like, oh, this guy's an absolute piece of shit. He sucks. He's got like the long, dangly, like fist of the North Star tongue. He's like, ah. And just like saying all this crazy evil stuff where he literally fantasizes about tearing off Alita's limbs and like wearing her as a pendant so he can hear her scream for the rest of his life. And it's just this evil stuff, man. And they also go along with that, there's like some really Arrow Girl vibes to this manga that caught me off guard. I don't know if Yukito Kishiro has made any of that kind of art in the past, but like, I've been on the internet long enough to sniff some of that out, and like, I definitely get kind of some of that in Battle Angel. Like, definitely not to the extent that you're gonna find on like the dankest places in the internet, but it's there. But like, that was just something that was in the back of my head as I was reading this. But back to Mukaku. So the manga does a great job of making you hate this piece of crap, but as manga are wont to do, like, we get a backstory, right? And what I like about Alita is that it shares this information with Mukaku for us while and it's not ham-fisted with it. Like, it's not showing this where like, oh, do you feel bad for your words and deeds for thinking Mukaku sucks? It was a lot more subtle than that. Mukaku's backstory bolstered and strengthened the themes of humanity that we've been talking about in this story by showing the social element of how an individual can become a monster. Through the use of Mukaku, it shows how when a person is abandoned or mistreated for their whole life and treated as though they're like a piece of excrement or like less than human, it shows how if that person manages to make it through those circumstances and they evolve, they are not going to evolve into a well-adjusted individual, right? They're going to become something monstrous, something evil, because this is all that they taught. This is all they were taught that life is. You know, this is all they've experienced life as being. And it's very much something worth thinking about, you know. Mukaku's backstory is extremely sad, man. He grew up not even, because there's 3 layers, right? There's like Zalem, which is like the floating city above everything where life is supposed to be beautiful and amazing. And then there's like the underground, or just like the surface, it's the surface world, where like the dystopia I was just talking about, where like things are pretty crappy, like violence is rampant, dog-eat-dog world. But Mukaku was born and lived even below that. He was born with his mom expelling him into a toilet where he went down into a sewer pipe drain, and he lived off of feces, sewer water, and heart. Like, the man, like, it's just, the dude is something else, man. Like, I don't know how he survived that, but he grew up, and to become like a young boy or whatever, it shows him just like eating gross stuff from the sewers. And then one day, like, looking up from his little sewer drain, people see him down there and they're like, ooh, look at that, that's a gross little sewer rat. And instead of helping Mukaku, instead of giving him any form of charity, what do? They hit him with a freaking flamethrower, right? Like, you want to talk about like a shitty life? I always thought that Guts from Berserk might have had the shittiest life I've seen. Mukaku's working on it. Mukaku's backstory is pretty bad. So they hit him with this flamethrower, right? And while he's burning, his wounds get infected with the gross sewer water, because duh, right? Like, of course they're going to. And as he's like down there dying and decomposing, he gets picked up by another doctor who tells him that, oh, you've managed to survive this long. I will grant you a body in the form of whatever you wish. It was the form that first comes to you. And Mukaku wished to be like this gross, wormy, maggot-like creature, because that's what he envisioned himself as and everything that his life had been up to that point. And he grew up to terrorize, right? He made his way to the surface and he killed, he stole bodies, and he did everything that he could to make everybody on the surface world's life a living hell, the same way that he was. He lived for fear, chaos, destruction, and to make everybody feel the way that he did while he was living his life in the sewer. And that old adage, right? Misery loves company. That's what we got here. And that backstory did a lot to showcase, I would say, Kishiro's understanding of like sociology and how complicated life is, right? About how black and white is a very rare thing, and most of us live in like shades of gray. Every character, like nearly all of us, right? And then I would say every character that I've encountered in Alita kind of follows this same trope. We have Ito, who's the doctor who like pieces her together, but we also learn that he just gets satisfaction from killing. He likes killing things, and this is a part of his darkness, like an inner part of like what makes that character who and what he is. We just talked about Mukaku, who was an absolute abject piece of filth, but after learning about the way that he came up and the way that he was born and all his environment, we start to see that like, oh, I kind of understand how this guy ended up that way. And with Alita herself, we know very little about her backstory. We know that Alita works as a bounty hunter and kills other people, but they're supposed to be like bad, I guess, you know. But at the same time, this is how she ekes out her living, by taking the lives of others. And this also causes Alita to question her own identity, you know, about like what it is that she wants for herself. Like, does she have any dreams? Like, what what is life to her. Not like the robot, like, am I human? Because she knows she's human, you know, and she knows that she has a human brain, but it's her body, right? So it makes her question her ability to like ever love another person, because will she hurt them if she were to ever get into a physical relationship with a human? Would anybody ever really accept her because of her body? Just like these sorts of questions, right, that I think are completely understandable and parallel questions that those of us who don't have a cyborg body ask ourselves at times, right? One thing I really like about Alita too is they never pushed her into the damsel in distress motif. One of the earliest chapters, one of the first sections of this book, is when Ito puts together Alita, and Alita tells Ito that, like, I want to be a bounty hunter. I think that it's something that I'll be good at. I'll be able to help you, and Alita gives Ito her reasons for wanting to be a bounty hunter, and Ito yells at her and says, "This isn't what I had envisioned for you. This isn't the life that I had when I helped put you together." And Alita tells him that it's not your life, man. It's not about what you wanted. This is my choice. This is what I want to do. This isn't about you. And Ito's like, well, damn, right? He's got to kind of sit back and really think about that, because she tells Ito that, like, look, man, I'm not your doll. Like, I'm not here to be your plaything for you to just dress up, objectify, and just sit here and be at your whim. And he really has to kind of have a come to Jesus talk with himself and realize, like, man, she really is her own person. And he realizes this, you know, it's not like that old trope where he has to understand her humanity, but he has to really face the fact that he was trying to control her life, even if he didn't realize it, and that Alita has a mind of her own. She has strength and abilities that others do not, and he can't just sit there and protect his perfect little girl, because that's not what she wants, you know. And I thought that was really cool to see a female character in a manga like this, and especially it being an older manga that wasn't powerless, you know, that like doesn't start off the manga as like this weak or meek, like this whatever kind of character that needs like a man to come save her and that kind of thing. Alita is like really complex, but also like really strong, man. She like, I appreciate the fact that she retains her femininity while also showing that a woman can be strong and stand up for what they want and that kind of thing too. And I don't think that there's a lot of manga that showcase that nuance, you know. A lot of the times women are just like there for like the eye candy piece, or they're like comically strong where like no man would ever want them, and just there's no sort of subtlety to it. It's just so good to see a character that just doesn't fall in the tropes, or like multiple characters that don't fall in the tropes. And I hope the story continues this way, you know. I only made it through volume 1, but the exploration of the themes of humanity, identity, nature versus nurture, women and objectification. There are so many cool concepts being explored just within this first volume, and if the steam can continue, right, if the story can continue in this way and keep exploring further these shades of gray in characters rather than trying to go for these black and white cartoonishly good or bad, I think that this is going to be a really great series, man. I'm excited to continue it. So that's Battle Angel Alita, Gunm. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you read it. Let me know the characters, the stories, the philosophy, if there's anything in there that really spoke to you. And I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes. If you made it to the end, sincerely, thank you very much. If you don't mind, please hit my YouTube buttons if you enjoyed and would like to see more content on the way. Thank you. I'll talk to you guys soon.